Morning, everybody. I am here today with Chris Burton, who is Head of Professional Services at Pentest People. Thank you for joining me, Chris. I just wanted to have a quick chat with you about the process as you found it of applying for a professional title with us. You have been awarded Chartered title. Congratulations. And we just wanted to have a quick chat with you to just reassure those people still going through the process, get a bit of an idea from you of how you found it, why you chose the route that you did, and any tips that you can give people that are still having to complete their form. So first question for you is, you decided to go down the interview route. We offer both routes, interview and attestation at the Cyber Scheme. Could you give me a little bit of insight into why you chose that route?
Purely down to personal preference. Obviously, I've been doing this for kind of about a decade now, so there's a lot of water under the bridge, I think is the best way to describe it. So the to me, kind of writing it down, I'm not overly academic. However, completing the form, been involved since kind of been interested in this since the pilot scheme. So I knew that what was involved in the form and what was required. So once we kind of looked at the application, I decided anyone that knows me will kind of confirm this, that I'm a bit of a talker when you get me going, especially with things that interested in knowledge about and passionate about. I kind of just can go off on these kind of random streams, and to me, it's easier for me to convey what I want over a kind of interview format. So it was an opportunity to sit down in the interview process. Obviously, it's not that much of an interview as what people would expect, and just have a discussion about something that I've been doing for the last decade and what I'm really, really interested in. So to me, it was a kind of no-brainer. It's kind of easier to kind of convey that than just to kind of write down all sorts of random thoughts and kind of potentially miss something.
Oh, that's a really good point actually, because we call it an interview. I think it's more realistic to call it a conversation. You know, you're being led obviously by the assessor to make sure that he's bringing out the information that you are required to give, but it's not as formal as an interview. Would you say that?
I'd definitely agree. Obviously, it's really easy to talk to. I think it was Andy that did my interview. Really easy to talk because, again, he's very kind of passionate about what he does, and the interview to me was, it wasn't what people think an interview is. They don't go through every competency question, kind of grilling you to make sure that you've not lied or you've not forgot something. It's more so the application to me is, when you look at the application, it's to get you to the table, so to speak, and to get you to show that you're capable at that particular level to discuss and to hold a conversation with someone of the same level about what you're applying for. And then the interview itself, it was really relaxed. It was kind of just touching on a few points within what the application form was about, and it's like any kind of interview and conversation. It goes off on random kind of streams and things, and I think it was an hour and a half, and we managed to kind of take it all the way to the kind of the full hour and a half, which was not unusual for myself because I can talk on a little bit. But it was good to kind of have that opportunity to kind of discuss things to that depth as well.
And were there any questions that came up that you hadn't prepared for that caught you unawares, or did you feel as if you had the answers at hand?
In relation to the application itself or the interview questions.
A bit of both, really, because obviously the application is quite formulaic in the
Mhm.
way that you are expected to explain your competencies and the evidence that you've got against them. But was there anything that came up that you either expanded on during the interview, or was there anything that you thought might be brought up that actually didn't get touched on, anything like that?
So without giving too much away, because obviously everyone's interview is slightly different, and it kind of started touch upon the application itself. So we he asked me to explain potentially a test that I'd learnt the most from, that had been the most challenging,
Mhm.
and that kind of took the foundation of the interview itself. It kind of led me on to start talking about different areas of the application itself, different competencies, using the examples that I was given. There was a question right at the very end, which obviously I won't give too much away, which was, you couldn't really prepare for it because it wasn't an interview question as such. It was kind of a because we are at the chartered level, it was more a knowledge-based, have you looked at this recently kind of situation. It was a bit of a curveball, but it was really interesting to kind of see and to kind of understand that question and to discuss it, because it was essentially about kind of trusting kind of our kind of forefathers, so to speak. So trusting software, trusting things that have been in the industry for many years, and have we looked at it more recently and understood it more recently? Is there a better option? Is there different things legally that we can be looking at? So it was definitely provoked thought. It was definitely thought went that way, but yeah, it was you can't really prepare for the interview. I would say don't overthink it. Don't try to think you've got to memorize your application or be ready for every question that comes through. It's purely a very easy two-way conversation with whoever's interviewing you, just to kind of discuss what you've wrote. And if you're applying at the correct level, you should have no problems kind of answering any of those particular questions.
Absolutely. And like you say, at the chartered level, what they're looking for is evidence of the competency and the knowledge. It's not tripping you up on actual facts. Obviously, a lot of the information is redacted. It's not about that. It's about checking that you have that thorough knowledge and understanding of the level that they're looking for. And it's a good point that you make about the fact that there are different professional titles. Obviously, we're now opening up to practitioner and associate titles, and it's very important for people to check the standard that we provide on the website and make sure that they are applying at the appropriate title, because there is progression here. You have, like you said, been in this for a decade. You've been around, you've seen it all, so it was very obvious that it was chartered title that you were going to go for. But I think one of the things that we have to do as an organization, and those people that have been through the process at that senior level, is to reassure people coming up through the levels that this is a progression, that it is testing the knowledge that you are going to gain over years, essentially, of being in this security testing specialism.
Absolutely. It's not, so obviously been awarded chartered. It's kind of, if it was awarded to everybody that applied for chartered, it'd kind of lose the credibility that you're trying to achieve. And yes, you can say I'm going to apply for chartered and then be recommended to go down to a different level, such as principal. You got to think, morally, is that going to impact you? Is it going to kind of have an impact on how you see things? So applying at the correct level is probably the important part, because that's what the interview and that's what the application is based off. It's understanding your knowledge to that particular level.
Yeah, very true. With regards to the application form itself, obviously it is quite extensive. We do ask for a lot of written evidence, less so if you've chosen the interview route, but either way, we are asking for quite a lot of examples. Have you got any anecdotes about how you approach that? You looking at the application form, what you did to make sure that you gave us the knowledge that we were looking for?
Yeah, so been interested in the kind of charter route, so to speak, or professional registration route, since the kind of pilot scheme, which has been going on, I think it was about a year or so.
Yeah.
And obviously, I initially looked at the questionnaire or the application at the same time and kind of thought it's another job for another day, because it's not something that you can just pick up and just think you're going to fill in the very minimal amount of content and be awarded what you think you should be awarded. So the way that I approached it with kind of myself and the people in the team is we started the application together. So obviously, understanding that it is quite a big task, I got the check team together. We went off-site for the day, fairly relaxed environment, and we just kind of approached it from a group collective. Obviously, there's a lot of different experiences. People have joined from other companies like myself. A lot of them have got their careers entirely within the business. So they can bounce ideas off themselves and think about the certain situations that they're going to use examples. But it's that conversation that sparks thought. So there was things that I was bringing up that was unrelated to what they'd done, but it sparked a thought in my head that actually I should include this information, or I should include this as an example. And we kind of spent the day off site. We didn't get it all done because it's not something that you can just do within a day. But it gave us the kind of the good foundation of understanding what we had to do in the task. I think on that same day, it was a bit of a coincidence. On that same day, I think you published the PDF document on kind of guidance and things. So we used that as a a kind of template to undertake what we need to do. And I mean, it worked. The team have been through the process as well. So we've got principal, professionally registered people, got myself at chartered. And that's the kind of key thing is if there's somebody that is going through the process or wants to go through the process the same as you, they don't have to be at the same level. They don't have to be in the same business.
Mm-hmm.
Just use them as a sounding board, as someone to have a discussion with and think about things. If you are struggling for kind of content or examples, speak to your wider team. They may not be going through that process, but there'll be things that you've worked on together within a team that do kind of spark you to think about, actually, I can answer this competency because based on this, this, and this is how we addressed it. And it's kind of anyone that's going at kind of principal or chartered level has probably been doing this for a fair number of years.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a lot of information that they've either forgot or that they need to consider. So kind of review it. So write it down, review it. Don't just kind of go with one example either. So I used a couple of different examples within certain questions just to touch on various different points. So it's just kind of, that's the kind of crux of it, I think, is lean on your peers, get your help from people. Don't just submit any document, review your information, and just use it as a rinse and repeat exercise. And then when you're happy, send it off. That's the best thing. When you're confident that you have content, that's.
Yep. And you make a good point that although the titles are awarded to individuals, there's very much a team effort and a collaborative effort. And the scenarios that you're explaining, you're not the only individual involved in those scenarios. And so it's just a case of the role that you played and the bit that you can pick out to say, I was involved in this and the result of it was this and the task was this. And it's being quite prescriptive based on that STAR methodology that we do provide on the website, and giving the breadth of evidence that we require. But like you say, it's not about giving us hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of examples. It's just about giving, especially if you go down the interview route, enough that the assessor can then start a conversation and get that out of you during that interview, because I think it is a more human approach to actually talk through these things. And like you say, memory will be sparked. You'll think, oh yes, and then that happened and that happened, and it does sort of evolve. But I think it is quite an informal process. It's not something to be frightened of. Would you agree with that, if you're prepared?
It's not to be frightened of. So the entire process end to end, obviously, I was through Cyber Scheme, kind of. It was easy from the beginning. So it was kind of, yes, the application is quite daunting. Nobody likes to answer several questions on different things and talk about themselves in certain ways. It's just how some people are kind of wired. But then once it got through that process, it's not difficult. It's such an easy thing to kind of, even though we are going for a professional title, working with yourselves, the Cyber Scheme, and with the council, it's not hard work. I've seen applications where they've been pushed back, and purely because certain questions don't have certain content. Maybe they've mentioned something, I've not expanded on a certain point, but it's not a kind of, you've not made the grade, draw a big kind of red line through it. Yeah. It's an opportunity to address those issues and to kind of reinforce information or review what you've sent over, just to give that person the kind of another opportunity to make sure the application is as kind of strong as it can possibly be.
And like you said, just to sort of conclude, you've given a lot of information there for people. That's great. Really appreciate that. Like you said earlier, you have been doing this for a long time. We need to reassure people that maybe haven't been doing it for as long, that the process is there to help them. Obviously, chartership in the cyber security industry hasn't been around that long anyway. So just as a sort of final thought, what are your thoughts about the effect that this will have on our industry, specifically in the security testing specialism?
I think it's only going to benefit in a positive way. it's something the industry needs. I think we've gone beyond the point now of being called hackers or ethical hackers. We're no longer these people that sit in rooms with hoodies up in dark rooms, just kind of throwing word lists about or trying to hack things. It's a professional career. So anybody that's now kind of taking the opportunity to step into a cybersecurity related career is it's like you said, it's a progression thing. So you come in at the lower level, the entry level, and or the associate level, and then practitioner. You work your way through, and it's something to achieve. It's going to me as a kind of someone who is a hiring manager is it's great seeing all these technically competent people who are top 0.1% on Hack the Box or are capable of taking a CTF and making a really good job of it. When you're talking professionalism and consultancy, half the job is the professional side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Having your kind of your competencies proved and kind of reviewed and a professional title awarded to that, it's adding that kind of other side to things. So obviously people can go out and get the CSTM, TSTL, other certifications, which proves that they're technically competent in one area. But proving you can do in theory, the consultancy side of things or the professional side of things, that's a big task. And I think that's where this is going to come into its own. Hopefully, it's going to make hiring and confirming abilities and skills so much easier. But on the other side, from a buyer's point of view, they are probably going to want to be dealing with people who have that certain level of professionalism. Obviously, trying to compare it or align it to the same professional registrations like nurses, accountants, that kind of thing is you feel more confident dealing with somebody who has that certain kind of professional accreditation to them. And I think that's where this is definitely going to kind of fall into its own and strengthen the industry as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, that's why we are so involved with it at the Cyber Scheme. We thoroughly believe that this is the way to go for the future of this industry. I just want to thank you very much for your time. That's been absolutely brilliant. I will make sure that we show that to as many people as we can who are still undecided about which route to take for their application or still maybe thinking about how to make the application as good as they can. So I'm sure all of your advice has been really helpful. So thank you very much, Chris, for that.
No worries. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye bye.